as far as Kaiso is concerned, he's a question mark. I really feel it's a question mark. I don't know.
Yeah.
Isa na namang magandang hapon sa lahat ng nanonood ng 2OT, and it's yet another very special episode for all of you guys dahil the one and only Dean Quinito HENSON, yes, that is the Dean, baka hindi nyo makilala, makakasama namin ni Carlos. Sir, kamusta?
Okay naman, kumusta kayo?
We're all good, Dean.
Caveman look.
Ano, Dean?
Bagay na bagay nga, sir.
Kala ko kanina, Greg Popovich din eh.
Yun, no? Dean Povich.
Sabi, mukha daw ako mitra.
Pwede rin. And right away, sir, we'll ask you first pala, how have you been doing? What have you been up to during this homestay for all of us?
Well, it's been tough. But I think it's important that we just follow the government health protocols. Importante. I think this has also given me an opportunity to closely bond with my family. We're very lucky with our family that we live in a duplex. So my daughter and her husband and my two grandsons are just next door. And we have an adjoining door that connects both our homes. So we're able to see each other. And since we're all within the same environment, we don't really observe social distancing since we're all in quarantine. But outside of that, we go to daily mass. We now go to listen and celebrate our Holy Mass every day. We pray our rosary. We keep our faith strong in God. But also, me personally, I try to keep myself up to date with what's going on in the sports world. So I continue to write my columns and my stories in the Philippine Star, which I also come out on social media. And I've had great conversations on the phone with different sports personalities. Last night, I was on the phone for about close to maybe an hour and a half with Magnolia coach Chito Victorero, finding out how he's doing. He has a sportswear company in Bulacan, which is where he is now. And I've only found out that he's had this sportswear company for 18 years. He's been supplying uniforms for UAAP, NCAA, PBA, and D-League teams for so long. And now he's doing his share in helping out others by producing medical gowns, suits, and protective masks for our health workers.
Ayan, nakakuha kay leakage lahat ng na sumusubaybay sa Sporting Chance. Abangan natin yung mga kwentong yan. Pero the Dean, just like Carlo and just like a lot of people we've talked to over the last couple of weeks, with no live sporting events, meron ba tayong withdrawal symptoms? Kami kasi nahirapan eh. It's different to talk to sports personalities. It's another kwento na talagang nanonood tayo ng live games.
Mahirap talaga, no? Because you can't get yourself in the mood to follow a sports event because wala nang sports event. So the next best thing is to try to keep in touch with people who make sports news alive. Yeah. So I was on the phone with Rene Delgrampo when he broke the news of his retirement on a podcast. Ano nga yung podcast na yun? And that was last Monday. That was, I thought that was a great vehicle for him to say that he was retiring. And so since then, I reached out to Rene Del. We've been texting. He's been sharing with me a lot of revelations like, ano yung pinaka-memorable the PBA game niya? No? And he told me that it was just right after he was traded by Air 21 to TNT. It was a game in the 2008 Philippine Cup, 2008-2009. And he hit the game winner, 109-108, over Air 21, 17-foot jump shot as time expired. And that clinched a semifinals berth for TNT. Sabi niya, that was the most unforgettable game in his entire PBA career. But even talking more to Ranidel and going through my records, and it's a perfect time also to go over your statistics. I found out that Rene Delgrampo played in only 40% of his possible games with Meralco. Ever since he joined in 2017 for the Governors Cup, he actually played in just over 40 games out of a possible 101 games with Meralco because of a lot of health issues. So those things, those other facts, lalabas yan sa Philippine Star bukas.
Yun nga yung binabanggit ni Del, no, na nahihiya siya na pipirma na naman siya kontrata, tapos di naman siya makakalaro, kaya talagang naisipan na niya. And actually, it took last Monday, pareho kami ni Carlo, ginulat sobra ni Del. Ultimo si Ping na kasama namin nun. Ginulat niya kami lahat. He shocked everybody in the local sports community.
Actually, naisip ko nga si Del, no? Because when I was writing and I was studying to be prepared for the season opening sa 45th season ng PBA, I was going over the list of players who are in the injured list. Nakita ko yung pangalan ni Del. So kaagad, tinawagan ko si Paolo Trillo, who's the team manager of Meralco. Sabi niya sa akin, he will not play in the Philippine Cup. So sabi ko, what does that mean that he won't play at all? Paolo didn't say. He just said Philippine Cup, hindi siya maglalaro because of health issues. And he has not been renewed. His contract was not renewed. So I got to thinking, what does this mean? Baka nagpagpapalakas si Del, no? Maybe he'll wait for the Philippine Cup to finish and then maybe he'll come back strong in the second conference. But I think Del jumped the gun. I think he listened to his body. And this quarantine period gave him an opportunity to think about his future, think about his family. And sabi mo nga kanina, Magu, no? Nahiya siya because I think even if he were to sign a contract with Meralco or two other teams that were interested in getting him, because he couldn't be sure of his health, sabi niya, nakakahiya naman, no? For someone who has given so much of himself to the game, he didn't want to take advantage of any team just to make use of his name and sign a new contract.
Dean, when we announced that you were joining us on 2OT, marami yung mga na-excite, marami yung mga gustong magtanong. Isa na dyan, si Ian Zane Esparaga. He actually wrote us a question asking, ano daw yung mapapayo nyo sa mga aspiring sports journalists who are currently, still in school, high school, college, pero pangarap na pasukin yung sports journalism? Ano daw yung mapapayo nyo sa kanila?
Ako, first of all, no, you have to make sure that you love what you're going to be doing. If it's sports journalism that you're going to be focused on, dapat imahal nyo yung pagsusulat o kaya yung paggagawa ng different media outlets to be able to bring out your sports juices. No? So I think that's very important, the passion for what you're going to be doing. Pangalawa, I think you have to be super resourceful. Kasi sa competition ngayon, no, in terms of bloggers, in terms of writers, broadcasters, there's so many very knowledgeable people out there in the field in media talking, doing things about sports. So you've got to be up to date. You cannot be left behind. If you want to be relevant, you've got to be very resourceful to make sure that you're always on top of your game.
Eto, Dadin, promise, hindi ako nagtanong, ha? Promise. Cyril Jury Damian, Dadin, sino po ang pinaka-paborito niyong partner na commentator?
Naku, marami yan. Hindi ko na mabilang. I think every partner I have had in covering sports has been a dream partner for me. And I'm fortunate that I've covered games, historic games, with a guy I'm talking to right now, Magu Marjon. Who can forget 2014 FIBA World Cup? Who can forget some other historic games that I've covered with Magu?
In Korea, Dadin.
I think I've done only one game with you, if I'm not mistaken. Tama ba yun, Carlo?
Yes, Din, sa NRS.
Oh, and I think we should do a lot more because I got excited working with you because I know about your passion and I know how much you look at the game. So, I'm challenged when I know that I'm with someone who's very knowledgeable. I feel that, the communication between the two, the interaction becomes even more alive, becomes even more spirited. It's something that I feel we can contribute to our sports viewers and fans. Well, one guy whom I've been dreaming to team up once again is Ed Picson. Kaibigan natin from long from long ago. I've always been telling him, Ed, kailan ka pwede makabalik? Maski na mag-cameo performance ka, sabi ko, because ang dami na nagtatanong. Nasaan nga si John and Marcia? Si Ed Dixon. And then, may lumabas nga na yung picture of a lot of comedians who have passed on. Tapos merong isang comedian, yung si Porky ng Pork Chop duo, kamukha ni Ed Dixon. So, in an Instagram post nilagay ko doon, ito nga ba si Ed Dixon? Sabi ko, kamukha. Ang dami naman nagsumagot. Sabi, hindi din. Si Pork yan. Yung Porky. Hindi yan si Ed Dixon. Tapos, sumulat naman si Ed Dixon. Sabi niya, akala ko nga ako yun eh. Because kamukha ko. Sabi ko, pero nung nakita ko, lahat ng mga komedyante dun sa sketch, patay na. Sabi ko, buhay pa naman ako. So, akala ko namatay na ako. Sabi niya. So, but yes, Ed Dixon, because of his humor and because of his, his flair for words, at saka yung timing niya, no? It's just unbelievable. I think, however, he has to brush up on the basketball rules. He has to brush up on the identity of players to become, again, a top-notch sportscaster. But, if you put him in boxing, that's no problem for him.
Automatic.
Kahit tulog, no?
Yung pagkaka-update ni Ed, give him one game and he'll be fine.
Yeah.
And kung si Dadin kanina merong leakage tungkol sa mga lalabas sa Sporting Chance. Dito sa 2UT, nakausap na namin si Sir Ed. If not tomorrow, basta this week, makakasama din natin si Sir Ed when everything pushes through. Okay. Ito yung Legend series natin. We had Dr. J the other week. We had Dadin today. And we're gonna have Sir Ed and then hopefully Sir Sev then sooner or later.
Well, maraming masasabi, makakwento si Ed Dixon because he's involved in our Olympic boxing program. Yeah. And he'll tell us all about the chances of our Olympic boxers. One guy whom I was speaking with just a few nights ago was Senator Manny Pacquiao. And it was interesting to talk to him because I never really talked to him on the phone for an interview. I usually just try to meet him in the gym or wherever that I might be able to talk to him. But sabi ko, mukhang wala namang masyadong ginagawa si Senator sa bahay. Ako din, tayong lahat. So, tinawagan ko at sinagot naman ako and we had a very interesting chat of about over 20 minutes. Tinanong ko sa kanya, Senator, itong balita na lalaban ka sa Saudi Arabia in July against Mikey Garcia, totoo ba yun o hindi? Sabi niya, well, bukas na yung negotiation. Sabi niya, we are talking with the Prince of Saudi Arabia. It was supposed to be in July and the likely opponent would have been Mikey Garcia. So sinabi niya yun. Sabi ko, ano kaya, Sen, matutuloy ba yun? Well, hindi natin malaman kung matutuloy. Pero si Garcia, will he be your next opponent? Sabi niya sa akin, depende. Bah, Senator, depending on what? Depending on Mayweather. Mukhang Senator has his focus on Floyd Mayweather. Now that Mayweather is back in the gym, he looks like he's training his son, his nephew, he's hitting the heavy bag. Baka may intention si Mayweather na bumalik and Senator Manny Pacquiao is waiting for him.
I think it's really not that far-fetched when you think about yung possibility nung money nung Mayweather Pacquiao to talagang hahabol at hahabol before they both really retire, no, Dadin?
Totoo yan. I think yun ang hahabulin nila, no? I'm thinking we're not just looking at a rematch. We're looking at a possible trilogy because I really feel deep in my heart Manny Pacquiao is going to beat him in a rematch. That's 0 sa record ni Mayweather. Mawawala na yon. And then, what a beautiful way to set the stage for a rubber match, a trilogy. Manalo si Mayweather first fight, manalo si Pacquiao ng second fight, and then the third fight, boy, that will be for all the marbles in the world, believe me. One other thing that I had an interesting chat with a few days ago was Remy coach Kaloy Garcia. And he talked to me about the rookies to watch. Very interesting din yung mga sinabi niya. Mike Ayonanon was one of the guys.
Yeah.
Aris Dionisio, whom he said reminds him of Mark Borboran. And then Sean Manganti, he would also be another rookie to watch. But he didn't mention any of the 4 rookies in the lineup. And I think that he was just, that was out of delicadeza. So, there are still many stories to write. Still many, many, many stories to write about in sports, even walang sports events. Especially since we're on lockdown, the coaches are thinking about what will happen once the season reopens. Magnolia, for instance, in talking to Chito Victorero kahapon, sabi ko sa kanya, Coach, iisa lang team sa ating 44th season ay may talo. Kayo yun. Magnolia is the only team with a loss because we only played one game. Sabi niya, oo nga eh. Pero here's his revelation. Sabi niya, defense has always been his number one thing. And he feels that when Rafi Rivas, by the way, Rafi is still not in the country, he's in the US because his father just died. When Rafi Rivas and Ping, who said has been cleared by Doc Canlas to start playing again, sabi niya, he would have played 2 to 3 games after that first game. Those two are his anchors on defense. And if those two guys were playing against San Miguel, baka iba yung nangyari. Yung nasabi ni Chito Victorero, I said, you've always been preaching defense. But in that game against San Miguel shot 48%. And you guys shot only 38%. So your defense wasn't exactly clicking, but your offense was horrible. Banchero was 0 out of 8 in that game. Sabi ko, mukha yata overcrowded kayo sa guard. Ang dami ng gwardiya. Gio Halalon, Banchero, Poli, Baroka, Melton. Ang dami. Sabi niya, kasi gusto ko yung ang style ko, our system is, I always have 2 guards in combination playing for the pressure that he wants in the backcourt. So when I put in 2 guards, mapapagod sila, upo muna, I will bring in 2 new guards. So I really need a deep bench in his backcourt. So, very interesting to find out all of these insights now that we're on lockdown.
Which brings us to our next question. Sorry, Carlo. Itong si Brian Banal. Ito, dahil nga sa dami ng mga information ni Dean. Sabi ni Brian Banal, good afternoon, Magu Carlo. Question for Dean. Paano nyo nalalaman ng info like personal life of different players, even in the NBA, at paano nyo po natatandaan lahat yun? Thank you, God bless. Is it just about asking the right questions? Kasi me and Carlo ask questions too, pero iba yung nauuhukay mo, Dean eh.
Yeah, I think it's important that you have different sources with the team. Because those sources will tell you what's going on with the team. No? Kung minsan nakakausap ko yung mga ball boy, kung minsan nakakausap ko yung mga assistant coaches, hindi yung head coaches, sila yung mga nagkikwento sa akin. No? But I think the players also, because of the long relationship I've had with many of them, offer insights in the NBA as well as in the World Cup. Ang ginagawa ko, when we were covering the NBA Finals, for instance, the NBA All-Star Games on site, I would make it a point to talk to the players and ask them questions that otherwise would not be asked of them. And that was how...
Hindi na yung paulit-ulit. Hindi na yung natanong na, no? You look for a different angle.
Oo. At saka dapat meron kang angle. For instance, when we were covering the NBA, every time we would approach a Michael Jordan or a Karl Malone or a John Stockton, I would always say, I'm from the Philippines. So, pag nasasabi ko yun, kaagad, their attention is focused on me. Because iisipin nila, kawawa naman ito. He flew 10,000 miles away to talk to me. Dapat naman siguro pagbigyan ko. And so, once I get their attention, then I'm able to ask the right questions. And I remember si Karl Malone, when I mentioned that I was from the Philippines, immediately he said, my wife is half Filipina, which I did not know at that point. And so when he said that, I did my research. I found out it was big news in Manila. That was in 1997. Yes, 1997 when I covered my first NBA Finals, Chicago versus Utah, and Karl Malone was playing. So that was quite a revelation. And even in the World Cup, tayo Magu, no, when we covered the World Cup in 2014. And ako, when FIBA asked me to cover the World Cup last year, what I would do, and I noticed other broadcasters don't do it, is before the game, nililibot ko yung mga players. Sabi ko, Anyway, meron tayong ID na nakalagay FIBA. So, make use of it. I noticed some of the foreign broadcasters, they rely a lot of their statistics, on their books, gano'n. So sabi ko, if you rely on your statistics and in your books and all of that, before you come on for a game, maybe the player you're going to talk about is not going to be able to play because he's injured. Diba? So what I would always do, as a matter of protocol, before a game, nililipot ko yung mga player. Inakausap ko, gano'n. I asked the guy who's feeding the ball during the warm-ups kung sino injured, kung sino hindi makakalaro. And they're very open because nakikita nila, meron akong FIBA ID and I'm a commentator. So they give me all that information. So I think that's a big secret for a commentator. Commentator really has to be on the ball at all times. Now, sa PBA, we're lucky because we have courtside reporters. And they're the ones who talk to the players. So many times, I take the opportunity to ask them, what have you heard? Ganon. I feel kung meron akong kutob na something might happen in the game, pumunta ako sa dressing room. And, luckily because I know the coaches, I know the players, they allow me inside the locker room even before a game. So I'm able to talk to them, I'm able to get some insights. And that's how I'm able to share information with our readers. I think it's really an innate curiosity sa akin, to make me want to ask these questions. And I also feel that if I am able to get this information that's interesting, and if I share it on the air, a lot of the viewers will appreciate it because kung minsan yun ang hinahanap ng mga fans, ng audience. It's important that you know what's going on in the game, but it's also important to know the personalities of the players who are playing the game, where they're coming from. And, that makes for the total package in Cover the Game.
Dean, before we proceed with even more questions from our Facebook viewers, we will like to greet some of them. Hi kila Paula da Parmaclang, Candy De Luna, Jeromel Conda, Cyril Jury Damian, Aldrin Buds, si Joseph Barredo, si Nino Catral, Archie Nakpil, and Brian Banal. May nagpapatanong din. Sabi niya, you've given a lot of, ito si Jed Palier.
Hinahanap ko yan eh. Nakita ko kanina yan eh. Ikaw na.
Nanay at tatay ko rin din nanonood pala. Sabi niya, good afternoon, Dean. Give your top 5 best monikers in the PBA na kayo yung mismo nagbigay.
Wow, ako.
Yan.
Okay. I think Mark the Spark. Mark the Spark. Shoot to shoot yun eh. Mark Agiwa. I think when Marlo Aquino was playing, I gave him the nickname Skyscraper.
Yeah.
Shoot to shoot yun. Ano pa ba? I thought Noy Castillo, when he was playing many years ago, I gave him the nickname Golden Boy.
Golden Boy, yeah.
I also remember
Dapat pina-quiz natin to eh. Dapat sinasabi ni Dadin, tapos manghuhula tayong lahat. Continue, sir.
But si Gabe Norwood, I gave him the nickname Mr. President because of his likeness with Obama, and he loved it. And up to now, people still call him Mr. President, even if Obama is no longer the incumbent. Ano pa? I guess it'll come to me, but I've also had some cuts. I've also had some cuts.
Isang natutuwa ako, sir. Siguro a few years ago, Crunchman. The Crunchman, Alex Cabagnot.
Diba? The Crunchman, si Alex Cabagnot, of course, yeah. I gave him also that nickname. But I remember, it's a hit or miss.
Yeah.
When you give a moniker, kuminsan, hindi mo iniisip yon way ahead of time. Kuminsan, in the course of the game, lalabas ka lang. Something spontaneous, no? But I remember si Matt Ganuelas Rosser, yung dad yun. Kasi his initials were MGR eh. So sabi ko, his nickname should be The Manager. Ang daming hindi nagustuhan. Okay, papalitan ko, sabi ko kay Matt mismo, I went to him. Matt, I'm gonna change your nickname. Oh yeah? So what's your suggestion? What about the Live Wire? That sounds good. Live Wire, yeah, sounds good. But it never stuck. it never. Sometimes the fans have to embrace it. And also, a lot of the other sportscasters, you keep on mentioning it. But for some reason, hindi nag-stick yung live wire. So that's one of my duds. Another dud was si Chris Ellis. I nicknamed him the Elevator.
Akala ko si Chris.
He elevated. Tapos, may nagsabi, luma na yung elevator. Si Chester Colome yata.
Kayo nga.
Elevator, gano'n. Hindi ko naman natandaan yung si Chester Colome that he was named the Elevator. Pero sabi ng iba, meron na nickname yan, Air Force. So sabi, okay, suko na ako. Huwag na lang, Air Force na lang.
Ay, ituloy ka ba, Carlo? Ituloy ka ba, Carlo?
Wag na.
Sige na, one time lang.
Sige.
Akala ko sasabihin ni Dadin si Chris Ellis yung dad.
Uy, si Chris Ellis, nag-i-ensayo nyo kasama si Greg Slaughter sa Florida.
Yeah. Oh.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests of 2OT does not reflect everyone else's. Dean, let me just twist the question a little bit. You've given so many classic monikers in the PBA. Can you tell us the story of who gave you the Dean as a nickname?
Okay. Well, some people were saying, sobra naman ito si QUINITO HENSON. Siya mismo nagbigay sa kanya ng pangalan the Dean. Sabi ko, hindi ako nagbigay niyan. And okay, this is the story. I was doing a telecast for Vintage of the PBA before with Randy Sakdalan. You remember Randy? He's now based in Cebu. And he was a professor actually, no?
Yeah.
His main job was he was a teacher at the College of St. Benil, Tasal. So I remember when we were doing a coverage, he was telling me, kasi ang tawag namin sa kanya, the professor. Kasi nga, professor siya eh. Pero sabi ni Randy sa akin, QUINITO, para yatang hindi tama if you call me the professor because you're senior to me, people know you more because you've been doing this for a much longer time. Maybe I should call you the Dean. So, ang tandem natin, ikaw ang Dean, ako ang professor. So sabi ko, okay, sounds good to me. Ganon. And for some reason it stuck. And from then on, I've been called the Dean. So I attribute that to Randy Sakdalan, and he's very much alive. I guess he can confirm it. And it's really quite. It's quite an honor that I'm called that. I don't know if I deserve it, but at least it sounds nice, and it's also captured the imagination of many people. The fans call me the Dean when I'm walking around in the malls. They don't call me QUINITO. They don't call me Joaquin or Mr. HENSON. Everybody calls me the Dean, and even the coaches in the PBA call me the Dean, and the players. Si Junmar Fajardo, when he texts me or when we talk to each other on the phone, ang tawag niya sa akin Dean, and I really, really feel it deep down in my heart. I'm so thankful that I have a nickname like that and that it's been accepted by the fans. Story not.
The Dean, if someone deserves to be named the Dean, it's either you or it's no one else, Dean.
Actually.
It's you or no one else.
Kasi mula noon hanggang ngayon, sakto pa din,
Well, this business of ours, covering sports, is such an all-encompassing thing, and you live it and you love it. And I'm very fortunate throughout my career that I've experienced a lot of things, all the way from covering the NBA Finals to being tapped by FIBA last year to be the only Asian to join their team of foreign broadcasters for the World Cup. That I thought was one of the ultimates. And especially since, at my age, I was teamed with a 29-year-old British commentator. So in the beginning, sabi ko, well, how is this going to work? And plus, they told me I had to be the anchor. So, as you know, I've always been an analyst all my life. So I talked to the producer and I said, are you sure you want me to be the anchor? Because I've always been an analyst and you used me as an analyst in the FIBA Asia Cup of 2015 in Changsha. So he said, yes, we want you to be the anchor. And I found out why later on. Josh Bett, who was my partner, was kind of like new in the game. And I think they wanted a more mature person to oversee the coverage. I think Josh is a tremendous talent. I think he loves and he knows the games very, very well. And as our team evolved, I thought we had really great coverages. Also to the extent that he also gave me the leeway to come up with monikers. Oh, by the way, here's another moniker. Bogdanovich. I called him Mr. Automatic during the FIBA World Cup of last year. And I gave him that moniker. And it stuck. It stuck. I've heard some NBA commentators now, when he's playing, call him, hey, Mr. Automatic. And, that also came very naturally. But I also gave Bellinelli of Italy a nickname that didn't stick. I called him the Miracle Man. He made some miracle shots early in the World Cup, but towards the end, when the defense started to hone in on him, he wasn't so much of a miracle man anymore. So nawala yung nickname. But that's how it goes. So I felt that, in talking about that World Cup experience, that was really something, because I felt for the first time, the Philippines got recognized in the broadcasting field. This was the World Cup of basketball, and I was ranged with English commentators, Australian, Americans, and all. I was the only Asian, and that's why I put a lot of pressure on myself to come up with a good performance, game in, game out, and hopefully it came out naman okay.
Ako na din, tinawag ko Mr. Automatic si Royder Cabrera. I'm still hoping that it would stick someday.
Yeah.
You're hoping Royder sticks with the PBA? Ano?
Yes, in the next 5 years or so. I'm still hopeful. I'm not quitting on it yet.
Well, Royder Cabrera, I'm not sure he's in the lineup anymore of Colombian. But high hopes for Colombian, by the way, high hopes. I was talking with Governor Bobby Rosales, and he was saying that with CJ Perez there and with Roosevelt Adams, they could be a playoff team. Sabi niya.
So those two are
really
clicking right now. Maganda yung pagka-mesh na din, ha?
Yeah. This is going to be a really interesting season. And for instance, there's a 35-year-old rookie who's a Philam going to be playing for Blackwater, Maurice Shaw.
Yeah.
And he's starting for this team. We don't know how really good he is or how he'll mesh in the PBA scheme of things. But it's something to look for. And I counted at least 20 rookies coming in this season. And I also counted about 20 veterans who've switched teams. So this is going to be a very, very new look season to look forward to. And I really can't wait for the season to start.
And speaking of this season, the Dean, we've had Commissioner Willie Marshall a few days ago. We had Senator Sonny Angara yesterday, SBP Chairman Sonny Angara. And we were all asking them about when to expect the season to come about. Ang sabi nga ni Boss Willie noon, if May 1, pwede nang lumabas, syempre magte-training camp pa, June pa tayo magbubukas. Sinasabi naman ni Senator Sonny Angara, mukhang matatagalan pa rin. And kahit si Comwelly is not discounting the possibility na baka July or August pa to, or baka ma-cancel bo. Everything's on the table right now. Ikaw, the Dean, what do you think will happen with the rest of the PBA season and with the rest of spectator sports in general?
It's really very difficult to say because everything depends on how we're able to control the coronavirus epidemic. I feel if we're able to stabilize things, then as soon as possible, we can get things going. Commissioner Marshall and I have had lots of conversations. And, oops, I think we lost it.
We have your audio.
Oh, okay. No. Okay, got it. He was telling me that once there's a go signal, he will give a 1 month lead time for all the teams to get prepared. And he feels that, kailangan yun eh. We don't want to rush the players. if you rush the players right away and they're not in game shape, it's just going to open the doors for a lot of injuries. So we'll give them 1 month. He said if we're able to squeeze in 2 conferences, that would be the best. But realistically, maybe just 1. And if it's just 1, it'll be the completion of the Philippine Cup. And, I think it's logical because I'm not sure if the imports will want to fly and come to the Philippines to play here, because flying is it's an iffy situation right now, depending on how we're able to control this virus. So we could do 1 conference. Maybe if we stretch it, we could do 2 conferences. But either way, they will be shortened conferences. We definitely will be ending next season once we begin again.
Dean, sorry to cut you off, but we're running out of time on this Zoom call. We will take a quick break on Facebook Live, but we will have more with the Dean when we come back. Thank you for sticking with us here on 2OT. Carlo Pamintuan and Magumar John. Kasama pa rin si the Dean, QUINITO HENSON. And sir, there are a lot of questions piling up on the Facebook Live. Everyone wants to hear your opinions about certain topics. So let's just, breeze through some of the questions na kanina pa hinihintay. The Calvin Abueva situation. Do you think that there is an end in sight when it comes to his suspension?
Definitely, no. I've always been a Calvin Abueva fan. I think I was the one who nicknamed him the game changer. You know that when he enters the game, something's going to happen, whether it's good or bad. Something's going to happen. That's why he's a game changer. But I think he's been very remorseful. I think he's done more than his share in helping out our frontliners and those who are involved in alleviating the plight of those who are in need during this crisis period. However, the PBA has come up with certain requirements for him to do. He's on the last stages of those requirements. I don't want to divulge something that's very confidential. The PBA has come up with certain guidelines for him to do. I understand that at the beginning of the season, before the lockdown, he was already completing the second to the last stage of the requirements. So, madi-delay na ngayon yung second to the last. And then he has a final thing to do. But I think all of those things will happen very quickly, because once you have someone like Calvin who is very focused, who is very remorseful, who wants to come back to play, he wants to listen to what the fans are saying, I think the end of his personal lockdown will soon come, and we'll see him back in the PBA.
Sir, the Dean from Martin Tabudlong, sa tingin niyo po ba babalik na ang glory days ng TNT?
I think so, no? Because ang ginagawa dito ni coaching consultant Mark Dical is binabago niya yung sistema niya at binabago niya yung orientation ng team. He's putting a lot of new elements in the team. One player whom he's brought in the TNT lineup is Kid Montalbo. When he was in college, he was known as the man of steel. And I think he could be one of the anchors that he will use in the backcourt for defense. Can you imagine when you have a Jason Castro, an R.R. Fogoy, you also have an Albon Bosotro on the side, but you have a Kid Montalbo now who will be coming off the bench to provide you that defensive lift when the game is going on. I think things are looking good for TNT. I think he's reworking that team very well for the coming season. And I think Dickel just needed a little more familiarity with the way the PBA plays its game. And now that he was even given the responsibility of coaching the Philippines in the first window of the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. All the more, I think now, he knows he's very familiar with the way Filipinos play.
Dean, Filipino world champions in boxing, John Riel Casimero and Jerwin Ancajas, they had their fights postponed. How do you think they should be using this time now? And when can we see them fight again?
Well, for Casimero, kausap ko siya kahapon. And nasa Las Vegas siya. nakakatuwang kausap because he's really a fun-loving person. But he told me that he wakes up at 8 o'clock in the morning, he goes jogging around the house. He's living in a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom rented home in Las Vegas with a swimming pool and a spa. And it's a pretty big property. He runs around. He also runs in Sunset Park, which is a big park in Las Vegas. But he goes around with a mask and he keeps his social distance. He maintains a social distance. He thinks that the fight will go on in July. So we're all hoping that he'll be fine when that happens. I've seen him pound the body shield of his trainer, Nono Ineri, on video. And, I think he's getting stronger and stronger. And he's getting more and more confident. Sabi niya sa akin, init na siya. Sobrang gusto niya ng sapakin si Inoue. And he says, when that happens, gigisingin niya sa Inoue sa loob ng ring para patulugin. Sabi ko, okay yun, okay. Now, si Angkahas, he's all the way in Magallanes, Cavite. And he's training back at home in survival camp. He was 1 month in Dipolog training, came back to Manila, and then nagkaroon ng lockdown. So he's now in Magallanes, Cavite. His fight was supposed to be for April 11. So that will most likely be late June or also sometime in July if Las Vegas economy opens up. I guess we don't know when that will happen, but he's keeping in shape. Ang problema sa mga boxer is that since hindi nila alam kung kailan yung laban nila, they have a difficult time maintaining the ideal weight while training. Kasi
masusunog ka nun, no?
Tama, because if you're Angkahas, he fights in the 115-pound weight division. So he cannot be 115 pounds now. Kasi anong isusunog mo sa training kung nasa 115 pounds ka na ngayon? So you've got to build up your weight to about 130. So when you're in training, meron kang isusunog. Ganon din si Casimero. Hindi ka alam kung kailan yung laban eh. So it's making it very difficult. His weight is also up. Bantamweight limit is 118 pounds. So he's now up to about 130, 135 pounds. Kumakain siya para meron siyang masunog sa training. Once, however, the fight dates are confirmed, you can expect those guys to be ready. I pick Casimero to knock out Inoue. And and Inoue is the monster. Sabi sa akin ni Casimero, Sir, sabi niya, ubus na yung mga horror movies na pinanunood ko dito sa Netflix. Ganun ba? Bakit horror movie yung pinanunood mo? Kasi hinahanap ko si Monster sa horror movie. Hindi ko mahanap. Palagi ko nagtatago sa akin.
Ikaw naman,
those guys are going to be rip and ready. And I think Inoue is going to lose. I also think the challenger of Angahas, Jonathan Rodriguez, is going to lose by knockout. Those two Filipino fighters are going to be ready to rumble when the time comes.
Ikaw naman, Dadin, para sa mga nauubusan na ng pinapanood sa Netflix, what would you recommend?
Sorry, ano yun?
Anong marerecommend mo para sa amin? Except for yung sa 420 sa Monday, na The Last Ride. Alam tayo papanoorin yun. But before dumating yung documentary kay Jordan, what would you recommend, Netflix?
Well, actually, I've been watching a lot of romantic comedy movies with my wife. And I've also been watching a lot of that old series called Matlock, which is a mystery detective with Andy Griffith. Also, I've been doing a lot of reading. This is a book that I just finished. It's the story of Rocky Marciano. It's a great book. It's called The Unbeatable. I also have a few more books to read. This is called The Greatest Battles of World War II. And then, of course, kung wala pa kayong kopya, ito. The 50 greatest Filipino athletes of all time. Bill Velasco and I co-authored this book. And
napagsaraduan lang ako ng mall, Dadin eh. I was gonna buy na, kaso napagsaraduan ako ng mall eh.
Okay, meron akong kopya pa sa inyo.
May phone-in question tayo from Direct Nick Earnshaw. Dean, what was the most memorable PBA game that you covered?
Gosh, that is going to be a hard one because I've covered so many. And, I'm telling myself, sometimes it's very hard to pinpoint kung ano yung pinaka-most memorable because I've covered so many. But I must say, one of the most memorable, if not the most memorable, was the 2017 Governor's Cup Game 7 final between Ginebra and Meralco, because that was before a record crowd. 54,000 fans. 54,086 fans yata yun sa Philippine Arena. And that had to be an unforgettable experience for me. Also because I think I covered that, if I'm not mistaken, with Andy Howe. And Andy and I are usually not paired together because we're both analysts. Although, in the early years, when Philippine commentators would be sent to the States to cover the NBA Finals live, Andy and I would team up. In fact, we did the 2 final series between Chicago and Utah in 97 and 98. So I guess that had to be memorable because it reunited Andy and I together for that Game 7 final. I think that was it. I know I did a finals game with Andy, and I think it might have been that, the Game 7 of Ginebra versus Meralco.
I think
record-breaking crowd.
It's the three of you, Sev. I think it was the three of you, Sir Sev, Dr. J, and you, the three legends. Nagsama-sama yata.
Yeah.
I remember taking a picture of the three of you. I was there sitting.
Yeah. But you know, there have been many memorable moments. One of my memorable games had to be the Philippines versus Australia game, also in the Philippine Arena.
Yeah.
And I covered that with Charlie Acuna.
Charlie, yeah.
A game that was bizarre. I mean, bizarre. You had fans coming out with chairs hitting the Australians. And then you had a situation where the Philippines just kept fouling out until only one man was left on the floor. So they had to call up the game. And, I didn't realize at this point that you can actually continue playing a basketball game, even if you're only 2.
Basta may papasahan
against
pa eh.
5. So long as, kasi meron ka papasahan eh.
Pag wala ka ng papasahan, di na pwede.
Game over.
Once you're 1, wala ka ng papasahan. Game was called off. But that was really bizarre. And that I thought was a black eye in the history of not just Philippine basketball, but of world basketball. Something like that should never have happened. And, I don't blame anyone for that. I think because everyone was to blame. Philippines, Australia, we were all to blame. It shouldn't have happened. I thought the Australians were very boorish. They were very antagonistic and they were very provocative. But, tayo naman mga Filipino, because we were defending our home court, we felt we had to stand up to them. So, and to make it worse, the 3 referees were stooges. They were the craziest comedians I've ever seen. Those 3 referees. Just when the first punch was thrown, the 3 referees withdrew. Sabi ko, anong klase referee ito? I mean, even in the PBA, once there's a little spark of a commotion, the 3 referees enter the fray to make sure na walang escalation. Ito yung 3 referee. Once the first sign of confrontation happened, umatras. Well, they were banned for 1 year, and maybe they should have been banned for a lifetime.
Dean, a couple of more names that are mentioned, are often mentioned in the questions Facebook Live. Your thoughts on Kaiso and Remy Martin?
Yeah.
Well, I've reached out to Remy Martin. Unfortunately, he's not answering me back for some reason. I think Remy Martin has a good chance to make it in the NBA. I was talking with Joe Betancourt just a few days ago, and you know him. He tried to get Johnny and Barrientos to the NBA back in 1997. He told me that Remy Martin has a super chance to make it in the NBA. And I believe so. I thought his 3rd year at Arizona State this past season was exceptional. He averaged 19.1 points a game. He's a little undersized, but because of his quickness and because of his smarts, I think if he finds the right team that can take advantage of his skills and his basketball IQ, I think he can stay. He can last in the NBA. As far as Kaiso is concerned, he's a question mark. I really feel it's a question mark. I don't know whether he'll be NBA material. He's certainly trying to be. He's now in the States. He's training in Georgia. He's gotten offers to enroll in Division I schools. I will reserve my opinion on Kaiso depending on how he does in Division 1. Once he chooses the team to play for in Division 1, then we'll see whether he's going to be ready in the NBA. I mean, I remember when Kobe Paras was in high school in the US, and I spoke with him, and that was in Tokyo during the hosting procedure. When the Philippines submitted a bid to host the 2019 FIBA World Cup, Kobe Paras was there along with Senator Pacquiao and all that. And I spoke with Kobe. At that time, Kobe told me he was going to go to Division 1 and he was going to do one and done. He was going to go 1 year Division 1 and he was going to go to the NBA. We all know that never happened. Kobe Paras is back in Manila. So, it's great to dream, but your feet have to be on the ground and you have to be mentally, if not just physically ready. And for Kaiso, he's getting great training. He's getting great support right now. But I just don't know whether skills-wise he'll be able to be there up against the big guns, the big guys of the NBA. As I said, I'm reserving my opinion. It will depend on how he does with his stint in the NCAA Division 1.
Isn't Jalen Green the other Philam na high school pa lang? Because I was just reading today, he's gonna make an announcement, I think before the week ends, whether he's gonna go. There's 2 colleges he's choosing from, or jump straight to the NBA. Yun ang isa pa nating inaabangan.
Yeah, I think Jalen Green is also a prospect. He was over here, so we've seen him live and in the flesh. There are many other Philams out there who are ready to make the jump. But I feel that they should really evaluate their situation very, very closely. I know that some of them feel that if they don't join the boat now, they might miss the boat. So they want to do it right now. But I also feel that sometimes it could be premature. So you have to gauge your chances. Maybe now is not the right year. Maybe you need a little more ripening in the Division 1 leagues. And then once you feel more confident that you can mix it up with the best in the NBA, that's the time to go. The NBA, I'm not sure if they've already made an announcement if they're going to postpone the June 25 draft.